Yo, what is good? We are back with the Pierce the Canvas podcast. This is Pierce here with an amazing episode of AEW that just kicked off. I'm really excited to get into this review here. It's been a little while since we've done a review. I've actually been pretty busy with a Twitch channel that I'm now running. If you're at all interested, you can go ahead and check that out. Liberty Killer is the name on Twitch. So been over there kind of building that platform, and so I'm really happy to be back here to review AEW Dynamite. This was the very first show back on the road since the pandemic, so, even if I think about it here, I'm not sure if I've even had the opportunity to review a show that was actually in front of people, because I think since I've been doing these reviews, that it's been during the pandemic. I think that's when the Pierce the Canvas podcast started, during the pandemic, so it's awesome to finally be back in front of people. We had some shows obviously here and there in between with fans in attendance. We had Double or Nothing. There's people there, and but now we're pretty much full force back into it. So really, really exciting stuff. And again, this is the Road Rager show. Pretty stacked card right off the get-go, but we got a lot more than advertised. We got Andrade El Idolo having his first match since he came to AEW. We have Cody Rhodes versus QT Marshall in a strap match, as well as Penta and Eddie versus Young Bucks for the title. So it's a pretty damn stacked show. And it got started right off the bat with Cody Rhodes versus QT Marshall in the strap match. And I never thought I could really even be that entertained by a strap match, but it was pretty good, for what it was. So mid-entrance, Cody goes straight for QT Marshall and gets the straps on. And at one point, QT attempts a dive. But Cody's able to just whip him in the stomach on the way down. Cody at one point is trying to tap all four corners. That is the rules of the strap match. You have to tap all four corners, all four corner turnbuckles. Once you're able to do that, you win. So it's also no disqualification. So as he was trying to tap all four corners, Aaron Solo came out of nowhere and attacked him. Out came Dustin Rhodes for the save, and then they fought into the crowd. QT lands a low blow with the strap to Cody. Cody pulls QT into the corner post, and QT's all bloodied up, so QT bladed right there. Cody's tapping the corners. For some reason, at one point, the lights go out in the arena, and it appears that this is probably the first time I've ever seen, lights go out during a wrestling show, and it was actually a technical thing. Apparently, it wasn't supposed to happen. At least I don't think so. Nothing happened because of it, so... however, lights went off later, and we'll get to that. So the guys at one point are fighting on the top rope. QT is able to land an avalanche powerbomb. QT ties Cody, puts him on the top rope, and lands a diamond cutter with Cody perched on the top rope. Cody begins no-selling at one point, gets a big comeback in, begins whipping QT, and lands a Cody cutter. Cody at one point low blows QT back, lands 3 crossroads to QT, hits all four corners of the ring for the win. So there you go. Cody Rhodes comes on top. I don't think I've ever seen him once do a job for one of his Nightmare Factory guys, which is pretty sad. So Cody continues his Triple H run, not doing jobs for anyone. Not that I really care for QT to be winning. The only time it really didn't make too much sense was the Anthony Ogogo thing at Double or Nothing, but I don't really care about QT getting wins. But yeah, good match here. Next we saw Shawn Spears addressing Sammy. Says that he hit the best chair shot that he ever hit on him. Knows that we might be wondering why, so he begins to explain, but doesn't go very far before Sammy just whips a chair right at his face. Puts the chair down, sits down, says, "Got you, bitch. This is far from over." Next up, we had Tony Schiavone introducing the AEW World Champion, Kenny Omega, alongside Don Callis. Don takes the mic and just kicks Tony out of the ring. Don gives us a history lesson, says that he and Kenny made history, and then I immediately was so happy that we had a sold out crowd, because the crowd just hacked the show with "You got fired" chants, which is actually, considerably interesting, because it sounded like the majority of the building was yelling "You got fired." But the thing is that none of this has anything to do with AEW. This is an Impact reference. Don Callis got fired on Impact as the like VP or whatever, as the executive. He got fired from Impact. And yeah, like the whole building was chanting, "You got fired." So I guess everybody watches Impact Wrestling. Really, really interesting that everybody was onto that. Don came back to the fans and said, "Real men don't quit, they get fired." Says that Kenny defeated John Moxley. He defeated Ray Phoenix, defeated Jungle Boy. He's won so many titles around the world, they got an entourage to transport the belts. I guess Nakazawa is considered the entourage. Says that these insect fans are in the presence of greatness. Don says that he and Kenny have a big problem, and that problem being that they've beat everyone. There's nobody left for them to beat. And then, of course, we got the "We Want Hangman" chants. And out comes the Dark Order. Evil Uno says that he has questions, asks why is Don Callis ignoring the crowd? And Kenny Omega, why are they ignoring the #1 ranked wrestler in AEW? Why is he afraid of his friend? Kenny says that Uno's got a lot of questions, but then the fans hack the segment again with cowboy shit chants. Kenny asks Uno, says that he's a smarter person than a wrestler. Kenny asks what the capital of Thailand is. This one I haven't heard in a long time. And then Uno's about to answer the question. Kenny sacks him, says Bangkok. And Dark Order go after Omega, but the Good Brothers come for the save. Kenny's about to attack Uno with his belt, but out comes Hangman Page. And he runs wild on the Good Brothers. Hangman is getting ready to buckshot Kenny, but just settles down, gets into the ring. Carl Anderson distracts Hangman, and Kenny manages to escape. So we're really getting into this Hangman Kenny thing. I was kind of hoping we could have gone the 1 year mark, get all the way to November for Full Gear, but I gotta tell you, actually, I suspect that this might be because Kenny's has sustained a shoulder injury for quite a long time. Shoulder, I think he has some neck problems as well, so unfortunately, they're probably going to have to take the title off this guy sooner than November. He probably can't go another, 4 months until then. So they're just going to pull the trigger on this Hangman Kenny thing at All Out in September. And me saying all this, I'm pretty much implying, yeah, I think Hangman's going to take the title. What Kenny's going to do with all the other titles, time will tell. Who knows? But yeah, that's kind of what because I'm pretty sure the original plan was probably to go the full 1 year mark to November for Full Gear, and have Hangman. And when I say 1 year, by the way, last Full Gear was Hangman versus Kenny in the #1 contender match for the title. Kenny ended up winning that match, so it would have been cool a year later to get the actual title match. But it's all good. I'm really excited for this, and I think every week is going to be extremely compelling. This is a great storyline these guys got going, so I think it's going to be a great success. So next we have Jim Ross sitting down with Darby Allin and Ethan Page before their match. I think it's next week, which is next week Fyter Fest week 1? I'm pretty sure it is. And they're going to be in a coffin match, the very first coffin match. JR says that he's disgusted and uneasy because both guys want to end each other's career. Says that's a big deal. Ethan says that Darby deserves it. JR asks what led to this animosity. Ethan's about to answer the question, but Darby gets in first and says, in his first year, in Darby's first year, Ethan was in his 12th. So Ethan had been wrestling a long time before Darby Allin even started. He says that he knows that Ethan Page can't stand it. Darby says that he's not complacent. It's not his fault that Ethan got married and had kids and stuff like that, which I had no idea the guy already had a whole family. He doesn't look that old at all. Hardly older than me. Darby stayed on the path to AEW, says that Ethan is complacent, says that Ethan can't stand that Darby made it to AEW before him. Ethan admits, he says, you know what, he said everything he just said is true. But he said that he's the one who brought Darby up in pro wrestling, takes credit for Darby's success, basically. He says that everyone always said all his life that Ethan would be the star and, he would be the one making money in the business, but he has to watch this Darby guy with his face paint, and says that Darby is, at the end of the day, he's nothing without Ethan Page. Says he'll take out Darby in the coffin match. And JR expressed uneasiness. This leads to FTR, Wardlow versus Santana and Ortiz with and Jake Hager as well with Konnan. So Konnan's back, and I'm sure he's here to stay. I don't see why they would bring him back again, and then never bring him again after that. I think he's a regular now, so that's freaking awesome. I can't wait to see more promos cut by that guy. So I guess by proxy, he's an Inner Circle, so that's kind of cool. So Santana at the beginning of the match lands basically a three amigos, except it was like two regular suplexes and one German suplex. Ortiz lands a powerbomb and a kick to the head combination with Santana. Hager is able to land a Hager bomb. FTR land a big rig to Hager for the win. And Wardlow is actually the one who got the cover here. So it was a pretty short match. It really wasn't that long. Pretty quick stuff. And the cool thing, or the interesting thing being that Wardlow actually got the pin here, right? So I think they had a one-on-one match before, so they might be tied up 1-1 in terms of one-on-one matches, because we had the MMA fight, I believe that was last week, or was it 2 weeks ago? Whenever that was. So there you go. Now we got it tied up between both guys. After the match, Konnan gets into the ring with, like, I guess what's supposed to be like a baseball and a soccer, something like that, and he whips Wardlow with it. Wardlow basically no-sells it and turns around toward Konnan, and Tully Blanchard gets in the ring and takes down Konnan. Santana and Ortiz run off the heels. So the Inner Circle and Pinnacle story is no near finished, and we'll get to more of that in a sec. So we got some big news that we found out up next here. Jon Moxley will be defending his IWGP US title, and we find out it'll be against Machine Gun Carl Anderson, as he and his buddy Doc Gallows, I believe, have officially re-signed to New Japan. So that's it's really cool stuff. Carl Anderson's going to have his first New Japan match against Moxley. It is going to be on Dynamite, I think, next week. Yep, and it's also great that Moxley will be back. So Carl says that he's returning to NJPW, where Bullet Club was born. Carl takes issue with Mox holding the U.S. title, challenges Moxley next week for Night 1 Fighter Fest. Good Brothers close with a beat up Jon Moxley. That's going to be awesome. I can't wait. I don't know if I've ever seen a Carl Anderson one-on-one match, like ever. Unfortunately, I wasn't really a huge New Japan fan back in the original Bullet Club days. I wish I was watching a lot more, but here I am. So next up was the MJF Chris Jericho face-to-face, and geez. So yeah, upon Jericho's entrance, a crazy fan hops the barricade and makes it to the ring and tries attacking Jericho or doing something. I don't know if he was trying to attack him or what the deal was. So yeah, a fan interfered here. Jericho seems to have gotten a hand in on him. That threw the whole vibe off. It was like crazy. So MJF, they get back onto pace here. It was all good after that. MJF says that it's sad Jericho's looking for another match with him. Apparently the crowd was yelling Y2J, but Jericho tells the crowd Y2J died a long time ago. Says he should have let that fat-ass fan come in the ring and beat MJF's ass. Jericho says that he won't back down. He'll accept any stipulation that MJF offers. He said something like, I'll swim with piranhas. He said something else, and he's like, I'll have sex with your mom. He says that he'll have sex with MJF's mom, and then there's a big pause, and he's like, again. So, shots fired. MJF refuses to get out of control. He says, I'm not going to give the people what they want, me to flip out and fight Jericho. MJF says he used to look up to Jericho, and then Who's Your Daddy chant starts. That was awesome. MJF brings up the Moxley and Jericho rivalry and says that, I remember what you made Moxley do. You made Moxley wrestle everyone in the Inner Circle before you granted him the one-on-one match. And MJF says that, Payback's a bitch, and that he has a twist for their match stipulation. And then he, makes fun of Jericho's age. MJF says that his favorite Greek story is the Labors of Hercules. Says that Jericho has 5 labors. 4 will be against each member of Inner Circle, each in an individual match. Each, MJF gets to determine the stipulation for. Says that if Jericho gets through the 4, which he probably won't, he'll get his final match with MJF. Jericho says that if he can't last through the 4 stipulations, or rather the 4 labors, I think he said the 4 labors of Jericho, maybe he doesn't deserve to be in AEW. So maybe that's a small tease. He's going to be retiring sooner. Hopefully not leaving AEW and going to WWE or some craziness like that. Jericho accepts the challenge, says that he's the god of war, he'll ruin MJF's life, signs the contract. MJF says, hey, one more thing. MJF says that he's from Long Island, New York, somewhere in Long Island, New York, and that they do business by shaking on it. So MJF offers his hand, Jericho shakes, pulls him in for a Judas effect, leaves him staring at the lights. So next we see Shivani with Britt Baker, DMD. She says Britt shouldn't have been in the... Britt says that she shouldn't have been in the tag match last week. I don't think that tag match should have happened. That was probably like the only reason I didn't even do a review last week. Britt says that she got another win, but Reba was injured, shouldn't have been in the match. And she addresses Tony Khan, says that she makes millions for the company. Britt says that this was all done to bring in Andrade. Britt says that next week AEW can run in Saudi Arabia. I don't know what the hell that's referring to. Like, you know, I know WWE does shows in Saudi, but like, what does that have to do with anything? Like, yeah, she says AEW can run in Saudi. I was thinking for so long, what could that mean? I don't know. I don't know what that refers to. She says that Nyla Rose is soft. She's a former women's champion. I completely forgot Nyla Rose was ever champion, dude. I was like, wait, she was? I had to look it up and everything. I was like, oh my god. Apparently she was for like 100 days. That totally slipped my mind. Britt says that she'll never get back the title. Says she'll put Nyla into obscurity and will be calling Dallas the Big DMD. This leads us to Andrade El Idolo's debut match in AEW against Matt Sydal. There's really nobody better to have your debut match against. This is a guy that you could trust to get you through a match and make it as great as possible. And this is a pretty damn good match for a first match here. So Andrade came out, and he came out with like a black mask attire, came out in like a suit. He wrestles in dress pants. Like, so many people are wrestling in dress pants now. You got Private Party, Baron Corbin in WWE, now Andrade. I think there was somebody else. I'm not going to spend time thinking about it, but pretty sure there's somebody else who's wrestling in business attire. It's the new thing, I guess. Andrade lands a twisted brainbuster, heads up top, and lands his signature moonsault, the one where he attempts the moonsault, the opponent rolls out of the way, he lands on his feet, does a standing moonsault. Really cool. Sydal lands a standing corkscrew, and is also able to land a top rope Meteora for a near fall. Andrade lands his finisher, which I believe is the same in WWE, the kind of like flatliner sort of thing where he face plants his opponent, and it's called the El Idolo, so he named his finisher after his last name, which is interesting. Andrade goes for post-match heat, undoes his belt, and straps it to Sydal's arm, pulls the arm back with the belt for an armbar. What craziness. And yes, Vicky Guerrero is still managing Andrade, which, like why? I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world, but whatever. We see Matt Hardy versus Christian Cage video package. Matt talks about how they've been rivals for over 20 years, and Christian says, never trust a rich man with a bad haircut or something like that. Says that he came to AEW to cement his legacy, and that the match is official. Christian accepts the challenge for Fyter Fest Night 1, so next week we'll also have Matt versus Christian. Matt Hardy versus Christian Cage. Tony Schiavone with Arn Anderson. This is good stuff. Tony says that you're having a blast over the last few weeks. We had Cody win earlier tonight. Your son, Brock Anderson, debuted a few weeks ago and won his debut. Life's going pretty good, like, for Arn Anderson. Arn says he's happier than ever to be back in Miami, missed the crowd, and he said, let's just get right into it. And so the lights go out, and they come back on like 15 seconds later, and it's freaking Aleister Black, dude. And so he lands a black mass to Arn Anderson. Cody comes into the ring, starts flipping out. He's like freaking out to Tommy End, I suppose. We'll call him Tommy End for the next like 10 seconds here. He lands his black mass to Cody. Excalibur mentioned that he wrestled this guy like way back, so that had to have been like 2006 or before. Um, and so yeah, it looks like he's now known as Malachi Black. How did Excalibur know this in kayfabe? God knows, but he told us his name. He called him Tommy End like 3 times as well, and then he's like, oh, it's Malachi Black. So yeah, so he's Malachi Black now, and freaking Aleister Black's in AEW, man. That's real exciting. And he had, I don't know if you see the thumbnail of this video, he's got like half his face is all messed up. One of his eyes are, he put like a contact in to make it a different color. He looks all creepy and stuff. It's awesome. So welcome Aleister Black. And it just begs a question, like, Arn Anderson was cutting his promo. He said, okay, so I'm just going to cut to the chase. And then the lights go out. Like, what chase was he going to cut to? Was it Malachi Black he was bringing out? Was it supposed to be something else? Like, I'm not sure what Arn's intention was, but he got kicked in the face. We see Ricky Starks. This is a promo from earlier in the night before the show. Said he brought out security to the ring with him since he's still not cleared. Taz comes out and says that Starks is like embarrassing himself or something like that. Starks says that Brian Cage is the one embarrassing himself. Says he'll take Cage's FTW title. And then he says the W stands for wife, and he's taking Brian Cage's wife, which is interesting. Brian Cage comes out, takes out all the security. Starks retreats. And so that's another match set for Fyter Fest. I'm not totally clear on which week, but we will see Starks versus Brian Cage for the FTW belt. I was under the impression the FTW belt was just simply going to be like a big Haas fighter kind of championship, but Ricky Starks is fighting for it, so I guess anybody could just go for that title. So next up, we have a mixed tag team match. I don't remember the last time I saw a mixed tag match. It would have to be the Red Velvet and Cody versus Shaq and Jade Cargill. But we had one tonight. It was Blade and the Bunny versus Chris Statlander and Orange Cassidy. There was no intergender wrestling here. There was a couple teases, but that remains to be seen from AEW. So Orange, before the match even starts, he starts landing his lazy kicks to the Bunny. After the match begins, he's pretty quick to land his Slumdog Millionaire to the Blade. Bunny is able to land a middle rope German suplex to Chris Statlander. Orange flies in on the Blade with a comeback, lands a spinning DDT. Chris Statlander is able to land her Area 451 splash, which I love that freaking name for, this alien character. But Bunny is able to save the pin. Blade pulls out Nux and knocks the hell out of Cassidy when the ref is distracted, while Orange Cassidy was attempting the Orange Punch. Chris, being the legal one, though, is able to land her Big Bang Theory to the Bunny and actually gets the win. So, yeah. Not totally sure why this match happened, but it was fine, and yep, we had a win for Chris Statlander. I mean, Chris Statlander did come back not too long ago, so she does have to rack up some wins, and so I guess that's one reason for this to have happened. So big news for Jungle Boy. He is the very first wrestler in AEW to get 50 wins. So congratulations to him. That's pretty awesome. And we have like a bunch of like paparazzi surrounding him. He's got like a cool trophy, and everybody's taking pictures with him with the trophy and stuff. His last opponent was Jack Evans, who he beat. I believe that was last week. Shivani is hanging out with some UFC people in the crowd, who we saw a couple times earlier. They were showing off. It was Amanda Nunes, Jorge Masvidal, and Dan Lambert. So Dan Lambert's playing the the MMA guy who hates wrestling. Except the average MMA guy who hates wrestling, the things that they would say is wrestling's fake and all that. He didn't say anything like that, but he was burying AEW. Like, I'm surprised AEW would let somebody just bury the company on the air. It's freaking hilarious. So he says he was skeptical about coming to AEW. Says he runs the most successful martial arts gym. Says his guy Dustin Poirier is gonna knock out Conor McGregor. So yeah, I guess he trained Dustin Poirier. That's a big deal. He's gonna be in like the biggest fight ever coming up. Not biggest fight ever, but it's gonna be a damn big fight. He says he was skeptical for coming to AEW because AEW sucks. He says we heard the quote AEW sucks on AEW. Says he thanked Tony Khan, but he'd rather watch Florida Championship Wrestling, watch Gordon Sully, named a whole bunch of guys, Eddie Graham, Dusty Rhodes, Harley Race. Says pro wrestling has gone downhill since the late 90s. It's just literally saying like what everyone who doesn't watch wrestling anymore says. Says that AEW is unwatchable. Now that I disagree with. Says that Tony Khan tried convincing him that they do it best. He mentions we got guys like Sammy Guevara and Darby Allin. Says that Tony Khan told him they have the best fan base. Says he'd been here for 90 minutes already and he's like, well, I've learned to trust my instincts. This place sucks. And so out comes Lance Archer. He freaking knocks this dude out. Like, he really laid it in. Picks him up and lands a blackout on this guy. That's like the scariest finisher in AEW, dude. Like, just looking at the dude being 10 feet in the air and then you're gonna... One thing I'm scared of at amusement parks is drop zones. I don't like drop zones. And the blackout is like a drop zone, except you land on your back at like 50 miles an hour. It's freaking crazy. So yeah, kudos to Dan Lambert. Took a blackout. So yeah, we had that segment. That was pretty hilarious. And this brought us to our main event of the evening. We had Penta, El Zero Miedo, and Eddie Kingston versus the Young Bucks for the AEW World Tag Team Championships in a street fight. And so this wasn't set up like other street fights we saw where they literally like cut to the street and they just start fighting. This was they didn't really even need to call it a street fight. They could have just called it No Holds Barred, or I think No Holds Barred is a WWE thing. They wouldn't say it. But no disqualification. That's really what this was. It wasn't even false count anywhere, I don't think. I think street fights normally are. So it was barely a street fight. It wasn't a street fight. It was just called that. But great. It was great stuff. I loved it. So Eddie came equipped with a garbage can. Match begins, and Nakazawa's trying to interfere, holds back Penta and Eddie Kingston. Bucks go for a double super kick, but the faces dodge it, and they kill off Nakazawa. So Eddie and Penta decide to go after Cutler to take out all the extras, but the Bucks are able to attack with chairs. Eddie and Penta do some double team chair stuff, including like a nut shot where like Eddie held the chair by one of the heel's nuts, and then Penta does a diving drop kick essentially. Nick Jackson powerbombs Eddie onto a table. Penta lands a destroyer to Matt through a table as well outside the ring. That was an insane spot. Nick Jackson lands a swanton onto Eddie Kingston with a garbage can. Penta lands a thrust kick to Nick Jackson, lands a codebreaker to Matt. Great tag offense by the faces, and we had an assisted spinning DDT by Penta. Eddie has Matt in a headlock at one point. He's really got locked in. Nick tries to dive onto Eddie to break the hold, but Eddie like rolls over and Nick inadvertently lands on Rick Knox, the referee, so he 450 splashed the ref, which is freaking awesome. Kudos to Rick Knox, man. Surprised he could even take bumps like that. He looks like an older guy to me. And actually Matt began tapping out at this point, but obviously the ref was dead. And I think Eddie may not have seen the ref or whatever, so he actually let go of the hold at that point. Good Brothers come out with a bag, and of course we all wonder what's in that bag. They drop the bag and go attack the faces. Matt able to land a spear to Eddie Kingston. Brandon Cutler tries spraying Penta, so we got like another, like similar to last week's spraying attempt. Except it was even more cartoonish this time. So Brandon tries spraying Penta. Penta moves out of the way. He holds back, and then Penta comes back. He tries spraying. Penta dodges. He holds back again. Pretty hilarious. But Kazarian is actually able to come and distract this whole weird thing and powerbombs Cutler through a table. Penta is able to land a package pile driver. Eddie goes for a pin, but there's no ref. Nick Jackson breaks the pin. Gallows and Anderson take out Kazarian with the magic killer. Eddie takes the bag that we had earlier, pours out a bunch of thumbtacks. Matt whips a bunch at Eddie. Dude, like, it was weird, man, because Matt took a whole bunch, whipped it at Eddie's face, and I shit you not, like, 20 of them had to have landed in the crowd, and you just see, like, a whole bunch of fans, like, bro, like, I'm not trying to take bumps. Yeah, so that happened twice. They threw thumbtacks at each other, and you could see them flying into the crowd. It's nuts. Penta takes out Matt Jackson with a garbage can. Nick Jackson lands an avalanche Rana to Penta into the tacks. Kingston's able to push Matt onto Nick's pin attempt. Heels are able to take out Penta and stuff tacks in Kingston's mouth and super kick the shit out of him for the win. That was a pretty crazy end to that match, and that was the end of the episode. Pretty freaking awesome stuff. I'd say up and down this show is just great. I'm so happy to see that Aleister Black actually showed up. I'm so happy Andrade's in AEW as well. That's really, really great stuff. As I said, this show up and down. I'd say the only, like, the slight outlier was the mixed tag match. I just didn't really see a whole lot of need for that. But hey, whatever. It was a really damn good show. Better than anything you'll get on a Monday or Friday. Until August. And that was that for this week, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning into the Pierce the Canvas podcast, visiting me for your wrestling coverage here. We'll be back next week, and every week after, we'll be here for reviews. Next week will be Fyter Fest, as well as a week after, so we're going to have a fun couple weeks coming up. And once again, don't forget, check me out on Twitch. I'm on Liberty Killer. If you check me out there on Twitch, have a good time. I play games. I make music on there as well, do all kinds of stuff, so we'll have fun. Thank you very much, everybody, for tuning in. Signing out here, Pierce the Canvas podcast. Take care, everybody.